Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. But we are joined by returning guest and best friend of the podcast, Mr. Logan Paulsen. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm good, man. It's good to be on the show. Really appreciate you guys having me back.
Well, first of all, we got to clarify, Logan. Logan is my best friend. You guys are just kind of on the side.
Just kind of tangential to this relationship.
Right. Yeah, this is like something super. That's very important to both of us, I think. But anyway, just so you guys know, the Burgundy Zone is part of Listen Frederick, a curated network of local podcasts produced in and focused on the Frederick area. Along with highlighting local talent, Listen Frederick hopes to bring local stories, voices, and personalities together to create a podcast community. Listen Frederick is part of the Manning Media family, home of Key 303, Key 103. Sorry, Kyle, you sent me the blurriest screenshot in the world.
Sorry.
And 1069 The Eagle. You can check out more about us and other shows on the network at www.listenfrederick.com.
That was one of the best reads I've ever heard in my life.
For a couple things to talk about there. Can we just touch on a couple things? Like, first off, you guys have a sponsored segment now. That's pretty big time, so congratulations.
Well, yeah.
Also, have you guys even looked at that before you tried to read it, or just come off the cup, just like cold read that thing?
I just cold read it.
Yeah, you can tell. Like you could barely tell. You could barely tell.
You said, yeah, you can tell. Thanks. That's so us. That's so us.
That's hysterical. And I usually do the reads, Logan, but I lost my voice being at the game yesterday.
Oh.
So that's why
Kyle's done all of the reads.
Yeah, usually.
Every one of us.
Let's start this off. The game, they lost the game 20-16. It seems like the fan base is panic meters at a 10, Logan.
Yeah.
They lost Ryan Fitzpatrick, it looks like, for 6 to 8 weeks with that hip injury. What are the biggest areas of concern here from the offense that you saw yesterday?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think losing Ryan Fitzpatrick's a big deal, and I know it's hard to kind of quantify the impact that he's going to have on this team, or that he would have had on this team, because we didn't get to see him play that much in preseason. We didn't get to see them play that much in the regular season. But I think it's going to be kind of a big deal in the sense that, like, you know, kind of throughout training camp, everyone's kind of known that he's going to be the starter this year. And I think behind closed doors, perhaps he was doing stuff that maybe Heinicke wasn't, or showed an aptitude that Heinicke did not. That's not a criticism of Heinicke, but just something that elevated him above, you know, the competition in the room. So that's kind of the first thing I think that needs to be addressed. Is like, can Heinicke be Heinicke, kind of being the starter week to week? You know, everyone talks about the playoff game.
No, keep going. Sorry.
Just the playoff game last year and what's going on with that. And I think, you know, obviously, it'll be interesting to see how he does when teams are game planning for him. I think another element of the Washington football team offense that probably needs to be addressed is just kind of the play calling in general. And you know, I don't like talking about coordinators usually, but I just felt like it was a little flat. You know, like, this group of skill position guys is not, you know, it's not Seattle, it's not Tampa Bay. You got to kind of, you know, dive into your bag of tricks and work different formations, work different alignments, and try to get your playmakers in a position where you get them some touches. So that would be my kind of big takeaway from the game, is that was a little disappointing. And I understand it's hard to be a coordinator. Like, I don't want Scott Turner's job. It's tough doing, but that's something I would have liked to see a little bit more of, especially compared to the LA offense, like how dynamic they were with formations, how they worked so hard down in and down out to get Keenan Allen in a good position for free releases, and, you know, Mike Williams putting him in favorable matchups, and they just were doing that constantly. And so I kind of thought, you know, that's what a good offense looks like from a play calling standpoint. You know, I'd like to see some of that for the Washington offense.
Now, like, to piggyback off of that, Logan, like, as a former player, being in a locker room, knowing what it's like, I was relieved with the fact that they did not lie down, because with teams in the past, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, the quarterback, going out, generally this team would go flat. They would lie on their backs and they would get run out. They actually played better when Taylor came in the game. They showed fight and grit. Is that something legit that you would be around an NFL team, that the gas would be taken out of you when you lose your quarterback?
Yeah, I think so. But, you know, you're all professionals. You all know what it means for you financially and professionally each and every game. And, those guys are super competitive, irrespective of the financial incentive, right? Like you don't get a whole bunch of alpha males that just want to lie down and get beat. But I do think Ron's done a really nice job of kind of changing the culture, changing the expectation. Because I was a part of teams where, in the fourth quarter, you look up at the scoreboard and like the thing that's motivating you is the fact that like I got to put good film on tape because like this team's going to get blown up at the end of the season. Like that vibe, I don't think is there. It wasn't there last year either. Now they did have something to play for, so it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of keep that same grit that you mentioned. I think that's something that I think is unique to this team, but it'll be interesting to see like if they face any real adversity, what it really looks like.
Right, and you mentioned the offense being kind of flat yesterday. One of the positives in the offense, in my opinion, was the rushing game. So I know you mentioned that you think Antonio Gibson can possibly be a top 5 back going into this season or going forward. Kind of explain what you like from him, positives, and maybe some negatives that he needs to work on going forward.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like when you talk about Antonio Gibson, I think the thing that comes to mind immediately is like his physical skill set is, like unparalleled. He's 230, he's 6'2", he runs a 4.3. Like he has great contact balance. He's got a nice set of receiving skills, receiving background. That's something I thought he could have done a little bit better with yesterday. I mean, he made some nice catches, but he also dropped a ball that I thought, just lost concentration. That happens to everybody. And in terms of his evolution, I thought he looked great. I thought he looked like, quite frankly, the best player on offense for a big portion of that game. And that's saying something when you have a guy like Terry on the roster and you have offensive players like Brandon Sheriff and, other very skilled players across that group. But excuse me, I think I'd like to see just a little bit more consistency in the running game. Like I think he's improved tremendously. So like I'm not knocking him here, but like he's still got a little ways to go in terms of being like a true runner. You see, he's vastly improved from last year, but being a true runner. And then again, like going back to kind of the offensive game plan approach, like getting him more touches as a pass catcher, because I think he's really dangerous when he's in space. And like he showed ability yesterday to run between the tackles and kind of run through contact, and that's something we saw last year. But when you have a guy like him, I think you want to get him touches in as many ways as you can, and that's something I'd like to see. For his personal development, obviously, like more consistency as a runner, trusting the holes, not trying to hit a homer in every play, and then from like an offensive scheme standpoint, like just finding other ways to get him the ball in space and let him make plays for you, I think is where I'd go with that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this. You know how I feel about Antonio Gibson because we text about it when we play Call of Duty. We talk about it all the time. But it's still weird to me that he used to be a wide receiver. Like just looking at his frame and his body, like he's just a perfect running back. Like whoever decided to put him at wideout, it's like, you need to lose your job. But anyway, so going to something that you know a little bit about. Logan, in your career, you were a fantastic blocker. You were always known. You also came up with a few clutch catches, but you were very, very good as a blocker. In your opinion, how did the offensive line look as a group? I know obviously the Fitzpatrick hit really rubs a lot of Washington fans the wrong way, but outside of that, how do you think that they performed?
I thought, on the whole, like I watched the game again yesterday. I haven't watched the All-22 yet because that doesn't come out till Tuesday, so I have a better understanding then. But from the 2 times I've watched it, I would say I'd give it like a C, maybe C minus. I thought they had some things that, from a pass protection standpoint, like Cosby. Let's just take him as an example. I think he competed his tail off, showed a physical kind of aggression, like he was fighting the whole time. But were there some technical things that could be better? Absolutely, And then like you go to Flowers, he had a very nice block on that long Gibson run. Then the very next play gets beat inside for like a TFL. And again, like I thought the group played well. Maybe C plus, maybe like they played well, but I think they could have been a little bit more consistent pass protection wise. Joey Bosa had 4 pressures in the game, and he's a hell of a player. But like again, that kind of in my mind goes back to scheme a little bit. Like that guy's out there, and it didn't seem like they had any kind of strong contingency coming out the gate for that, and that's frustrating because you had all offseason. Everyone talks about how good of a pass player he is. So in some ways, I feel like from that standpoint, they kind of got out coached a little bit. But yeah, I think that group's good. I think they need to gel a little bit more, and I think that'll happen just with more time on task.
Right. And it's funny you mentioned Joey Bosa. I always, for whatever reason, I've always known Joey Bosa was good, but in my head, he was always kind of overrated just because of the injury concerns and stuff like that.
Right.
And I forgot just how dominant that dude can be. That guy can affect every single play just by being on the field. Like he's unreal. So props to the Chargers, man. They got some playmakers over there.
Yeah, they look really good. I mean, that team might screw around and be pretty good this year. I think they do have some gelling to do also, but
Right.
that quarterback was super impressive.
Oh my God.
The defense was better than I thought they'd be. So, I think they've got some definitely big upside.
In that division, they could get a wild card for sure.
And I watched the film today of the game yesterday, and I'll challenge everyone out there, if you watched the film from yesterday, pause the film as soon as the snap is made. And if you pause it right there, you will see Joey Bosa is 3 yards off the line already. His first step is amazing, Logan. But from one Logan to another,
wait, real quick on that. I got a little nugget. Sorry to cut you off. So I was watching the TV copy yesterday, and they zoomed in on Joey Bosa, and I like to read the player's lips, and he goes like, "Oh, 76 has a tell in pass protection. Watch his hand on his thigh." He said that I can't see, but obviously those elite pass rushers, man, they studied the dickens out of that thing.
Yeah.
Cosby had a little bit of a tell, and I remember Trent Williams had something similar my rookie year with him and my second year too. And I remember the coaching staff found out about it. They really worked on it, but those guys, they not only are they physically very gifted, but mentally are they super dialed into every aspect of it to maximize those physical traits. So sorry to interrupt you.
No. That was a nugget that was necessary for you cutting me off, Logan, especially with how I sound today.
It's just like, don't do it again.
Right. From one Logan to another, our boy Logan Thomas, I saw in that huge run by Antonio Gibson yesterday. I think it was 25, 27 yards. Logan Thomas was actually the lead blocker, and he did really well in that play. He was utilized heavy yesterday. I thought he was the MVP of the game, that lone touchdown catch. How did he look yesterday, and how surprised were you by his play?
That guy doesn't really surprise me. I think he's moving better than he was last year, at least to my eye he is. I don't know if he's lost weight or whatever, but he just looks a little bit more confident. That catch was pretty spectacular, the way he contorted his body forward and jumped up, and he just looked like
reminiscent of what's his face from the 49ers with that pass from Joe Montana in the back of the end zone.
That's a great comparison.
I have those a lot.
And then he's always been a physical guy, you know what I mean? When you watch his tape even from Detroit, he's bending people's face masks and really getting after it on cross-hits and sifts and stuff. But I think one of the things about him is that his technical run blocking ability is slowly starting to catch up to his physicality, right? So even on that nice touchdown block, his angle is a little off, but he's big and strong enough, and he plays with enough physicality that he's able to get it done. So I think he's just going to keep getting better in that area, and I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I definitely agree. He's definitely coming in to be a top 10 tight end in this league. Looking forward to the next game. The wide receiver core, obviously, I guess everyone expected kind of bigger things from the offense from the wide receiver core going into this year. Kind of looked a little bit of the same as last year, in my opinion. How do you think they're going to attack the Giants going into this week 2 matchup?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think, after watching the Washington football team, against the Rams, it put things into perspective for me, because there was a play in the red zone. It was actually Logan Thomas's touchdown where they were in a bracket. LA was in a bracket coverage, and they bracketed Terry, and then they bracketed not another receiver, not a tight end, but Antonio Gibson in the backfield. And it makes me think that coaches around the NFL, or at least the coaches on the Rams, don't think that this Washington football team has another threat at receiver at the moment. You know what I mean? Which I think is something that fans get so dialed in. I'm guilty of this just like anybody. You get so dialed in, Diami the draft pick, or Curtis Samuel this, or Logan Thomas that. But when you kind of take a step back and take a 1,000-foot view of it, you realize these skill positions, they're good players. Logan Thomas, we just said, could potentially be a top 10 player at the position this year. But are they there yet? And obviously the NFL doesn't feel that they're there yet, or they'd be treating them as such. And so I think, going into this Giants game, one of the things that they have kind of they have a nice secondary, right? They've got Bradbury, they've got that kid from Tennessee that they brought in free agency, Jabril Peppers,
Logan Ryan.
Yes, right. So they're very good. So they're going to see a secondary in some ways that's going to have better coverage guys than the secondary they saw this week. I think, and unless somebody can kind of step up and say, hey, I'm the next, Robin to Batman, to Terry's Batman kind of thing, they're going to have a tough time because they can roll coverage to Terry still. I'd like to see, we talked about a little bit about the game plan, the offensive game plan. I'd like to see Logan Thomas featured a little bit more. When you look at these top 10 tight ends like, Kittle, Kelsey, Waller, Hawkinson, Goddard, those types of guys, which I think Logan Thomas is, maybe not in that conversation, but right there. Like they get 5 to 10 targets a game, 5 to 10 plays that are directed to them. And I don't see that. I don't see that type of philosophy when it comes to this. And again, like they had a really kind of screwed up situation with the game plan. They only had 49 offensive snaps or something crazy like that.
Right.
So, what does that look like if they get another 20? Maybe he gets more touches, and that would be appropriate. But I think in terms of attacking the Giants defense, I think you've got to kind of attack the middle, attack that middle level of linebackers. They've got good coverage guys, and I don't think they've got enough. The Washington football team has enough good skill guys to kind of make those coverage guys pay. So you go to Logan Thomas, you go to Gibson, you go to McKissick, and you say, can we get those guys matched up on linebackers and really stress them that way, and maybe get them to bring a safety down to cover a back or cover a tight end, and then loosen up the coverage a little bit. And that, I think, is the challenge, is finding ways to loosen the coverage. Like I go back to my time with Kyle Shanahan, and that guy never had great pieces when I was with him. Maybe one year you could argue, but like he was always really good about meticulously studying and grinding and finding looks and finding opportunities for his playmakers to make plays. And I think that's something I'd like to see. Like when the sum of the parts isn't great, the coaching staff has to elevate it a little bit. And I want to see, I'm not being, hopefully it doesn't sound like I'm being overly critical of Scott Turner, but I think that's something I'd like to see going into this Thursday night game.
No,
Yeah.
that's what I
Fair
want.
assessment,
That's
definitely
what I
fair
want is your
Right.
honesty, Logan, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said it, somebody needs to step up and kind of be Robin to Terry's Batman, which is tough because nobody grows up pretending like they're Robin.
Right.
Nobody wants to be that guy. But anyway, probably the biggest storyline, of course, is going to be Taylor Heineke. We did not think that we would see Taylor Heineke this early on in the season. It's very unfortunate what happened to Ryan Fitzgerald. But all three, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I just bought a car, so Fitzgerald auto. All 3 times we've seen Taylor Heineke now, he's really impressed everybody. What do you think we can expect from him Thursday night? And do you think he can finally get us over the hump and beat the Giants?
So this is the $1 million question, man.
Right.
Like this is something that keeps you up at night, kind of in that weird, like beautiful mind type setting where you're drawing diagrams like, oh, if this happens, Taylor Heineke, right? Because I think Taylor Heineke is like this beautiful thing to bring off the bench because he has such a kind of perfect second string quarterback skill set. Like he's going to run around,
symmetrical face,
off schedule. Yeah. He's
jacked.
Like a handsome guy.
Yeah.
He's fast. He's good looking. All the girls love him. All the boys love him. Everyone wants to be him, right?
Why we're best friends.
Yeah. He comes off the bench and he just kind of throws the defensive game plan into total flux. However, if that guy's starting and he has a difficult time throwing from the pocket, you say he's a lot easier to game plan for, right? You say, hey, D-line, we're going to rush with this kind of type of angle. We're going to rush with this kind of concept in mind because if you look at the preseason, you look at Tampa Bay, there's very few throws where he's standing there reading the defense. And if you force him to do it, that is the biggest question mark of his game. Can he sit in the pocket, read the defense, and make throws within the structure of the offense? If anybody has tape of him doing that, send it to my Instagram. I want to see it, okay? Because all the throws he had last year were out of the pocket or under pressure, right? Where it's blitzes, it's easy reads. So I want to see it because that's the thing that I'm like, well, he showed this little thing in practice the other day. Maybe that's enough, but it doesn't answer the question. And that's the biggest question going to Thursday night game. Thank goodness for him. It's a short week. Maybe they don't have enough time to prep, but questions.
Yeah, and today, like I alluded to earlier, Logan, it seems like the fan base, the panic meter is at a 10. So for you, is this, I know it's really stupid to say, and I hate asking this question, but is Thursday night a must-win game for the Washington football team, given the fact that they play the Bills next week, week 3, and then the Falcons a week after?
So I would not say this is a must-win game if it wasn't for the fact that they'd had this first-place schedule, right? You got to win games you're supposed to win. That's what good teams, that's what medium teams do, right? You got to win games you're supposed to win. So is it going to crush their season if they don't win this game? No. But should they win this game? Is this a Giants team that's kind of limping in here? Their offensive line's a mess. Their quarterback looked pretty good, but again, like they can't protect him. Defense looks strong, but gave him a big run late in the game. Like they are hobbling in here right now. Can the Washington football team take advantage of this and win this game. They should win this game. They're a better team on paper. I know they don't have a quarterback, but like their defense should be able to take over this game, and they should be able to win this game 10-7 if they have to, right?
Right.
But can they do it? I don't know. And so in terms of answering your question, like I'm never a big believer in like it's a must win, especially this early in the season, but it's a game they should win. And maybe that means it's a must win game. I don't know.
I mean, hey, it would be hell if we started 0-3.
Yeah.
I mean, because with the Bills the following.
Well, and to be fair, the Bills looked rough.
That's true. Yeah, valid point. You know what I mean? That's true.
This is week 1, right? So all these preconceived notions about where people are at in terms of how good they are is always in flux. I think. Like, look at New Orleans. Like,
oh my God, and Green Bay at the same time. Yeah.
And so, but Green Bay's probably gonna look better next week. New Orleans probably gonna look a little worse. The Bills are probably gonna look. You know what I mean? It's just like it's ebbs and flows, right?
That's true. Very true.
Overreaction Monday. What do you expect?
Yeah, good overreaction.
And going back to the offense and kind of being the Robin to Terry's Batman. If someone's going to step up and kind of be that X factor in this game on Thursday, who do you think that guy's going to be?
So from the receiver room, I'm kind of surprised that Cam Sims did not play more in this game, to be totally honest. Like he's a guy that I think's got a really nice skill set, a really nice complementary skill set, I think. But he only had like 2 offensive snaps or something like that. And then while Diami had like
53 or something,
crazy like that. So like obviously that's who the staff believes is going to be the Robin to Terry's Batman in the receiver room. However, I think you got to keep in perspective. Like there are other outstanding weapons on this team. Like even McKissick didn't play as much as I thought I'd see him play. You know, like those guys are weapons. McKissick, Gibson, Logan, Thomas. Like we talked about them already, but to me, that group of guys, your Robin is in there somewhere, right? Gibson, we talked about. I think had a really nice performance. You know, I think. Still growing, but I think it's showing that he's very close to being kind of a name everyone in the NFL should know, everyone who follows the NFL should know about. And then Logan Thomas, the fact that he's not getting targeted more early, I think is a travesty. And then getting McKissick out there, who was I don't know if he's a leading receiver, but very close. He was in number of receptions.
He was second in the NFL among running backs.
Yeah, so like get him back on the field. That's a great skill set to have. Like use what you've got, and don't try to force a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah, that's 100% right. And you already touched on Antonio Gibson from this past week against the Chargers, but looking ahead, with kind of the success or lack of success, if you ask some fans, that this offense had, do you think we'll continue to see Antonio Gibson kind of be the focal point of this offense? Because it seemed like, especially early on, this offense revolved around Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think he looked like the best player on the team for a good stretch there. I think, I mean, if you got a player and you've got somewhat limited talent pool in the receiver room, like you've got to kind of lean and find different ways to make your offense go. That being said, like I think I've already said this, but I didn't love like that. It's just like pound the ball down the middle of the field. Like let's get him in space. Let's try to use that skill set a little bit more outside. And I think that comes with time and experience for Scott Turner, like getting more comfortable calling games and plays. And but yeah, I'm a huge Antonio Gibson fan. I think it's going to be a great year for him. I just don't hope. I hope they don't like beat him up too early in the year, you know, with kind of running the ball a ton. Yeah. But I think he's going to be a great piece for this offense.
Yeah, and that's a great tidbit by you. It's a 17-game season. You know, it's a long season. First game, we can't get him banged up too early. Now to wrap this up, Logan, I have to ask you. What are your predictions for the Thursday night game? Is the Washington football team going to go 0-2? They're going to go 1-1? How do you think it's going to play out?
Yeah, like I know we're not supposed to talk about defense, but I think like that's the key cog in all this, right? I think the offense matches up. It's almost a wash in terms of the Giants' defense. I think in some ways their defense has an advantage, and I think the where you make up ground is with the Washington football team defense against the New York Giant offense, right? I want that pass rush to come alive. I want them to get pressure on Daniel Jones. I want them to complement the secondary, which they didn't really do a ton of in the game on Sunday. Like that is where I think you're going to maybe force a turnover like Daniel Jones for all of his growing and maturity and how kind of much more polished he looked in the game. Like he turned the ball over again in the red zone. Like he's going to do that. And like this defense has to capitalize on those opportunities. I mean, that was one positive, another positive from the game. So the defense forced 2 turnovers. One of them was questionable, but like they're a little bit more aware of the ball. And I think that's where the victory lies here, right? If Heineke can protect the football offensively and literally like let the defense win the game for you, because that's what the Broncos did, quite frankly, is they scored the Giants scored 7 points. And like I know they had a turnover in the red zone and the Broncos went crazy on third down. They were 3 for 3, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, man, like that is the linchpin. Heineke not turning the ball over. A little bit more diversity in the game plan, I think, would be nice. It's going to be tough on a short week. And then can that defense be that defense that we all thought, you know? And another thought before I go is, you know, everyone talks about how the impact Joey Bosa had on that game. And everyone wants Chase and Sweat and this group to be kind of vaunted into that top echelon of defensive players. But I didn't see Chase do what Bosa did. I didn't see what Sweat do what Bosa did, right? And they're both capable of it. It's just about their maturation to that point. And like I rather that happen sooner than later, I guess.
Yeah, I have a quick question, Logan, just from your basic knowledge. So Washington, of course, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, not Fitzgerald, going on the IR, they brought in a quarterback by the name of Kyle Shurmur. Now, for those of you who don't know, Kyle Shurmur's dad is Pat Shurmur. He's the offensive coordinator of the Denver Broncos, the team that just tore the New York Giants apart. Do you think that Washington did that on purpose? Do you think they brought him in there because he gets some intel?
I think they think they did it because they played against him in the preseason. I think is why they did it.
Right.
He was in Cincinnati, I want to say. He was and so like that, I find like this organization, and not this organization, but most teams, if you play okay against them, they remember you, right? And so Cincinnati probably cut them or whatever. Let's come on down. We thought you were pretty good when we saw you the other day. You know, I'd like to say that they did it because they were trying to be nefarious and get some intel from the Denver Broncos, all that kind of stuff. But
he's not as
they
bad,
have the tape.
guys.
They have the tape like everybody else, and that's almost just as valuable. Like you or I we could watch that tape and figure out their game plan, and we could ball out. But it's about like getting the pieces on the field to execute what you see and execute at the same level that the Broncos did.
Right.
Yep, absolutely. And Logan, right before we go, earlier you talked about people sending you messages on Instagram about Taylor Heineke's throws from the pocket. So before you go, you want to plug your Instagram handle?
Oh yeah. My Instagram is Logan_Paulsen82, and if you've got him, I want to see him. Send him over.
Yes, Logan has the best film breakdowns on Instagram. Make sure you guys go follow him. Logan, I can't thank you enough again, sir. We will see you again very, very soon. I'm going to try to bring you back on here in the next couple of weeks if that's okay.
Yeah, Logan, I'll talk to you after this for sure.
Always, yeah. Well, I'll hit you up. We'll text each other. It'll be good.
Totally.
But yeah, always fun seeing you guys. Always fun talking, and the podcast is looking good, man. Sponsor and everything.
Thanks, man. And you're kicking butt with Julie, by the way. And Reed does not want Julie to steal you away from him.
I know. I've been sending her messages, being like, "Don't. That's my best friend. Stop." So.
All right, Logan. Thank you so much, sir. You have a great night.
Appreciate it, man.
Okay, see you guys.
All right, Logan. See you.
Bye.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the Logan Paulsen. That was fantastic, as always. But just as we're getting rid of Logan Paulsen, we have entering into our Zoom chat here for the first time. I have been trying to get this man on the podcast for months. We finally are able to do it in a jam-packed, crazy good episode. Ryan Fowler from the Draft Network. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Ryan. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, fellas. I'm happy to be here. I know it's been too long.
By the way, can I just tell you before I start this? Over the last 2 years, the Draft Network has easily been my favorite NFL draft website. Just that's where we go to make all of our mock drafts. That's where we go.
I appreciate it.
Good for you guys.
I will definitely tell our scouting staff they bust their butts every single day. It's
the
behind the scenes work that you guys do. It's just all these prospects from FCS to FBS and Power 5 guys. It's crazy. So I appreciate that.
And the NFL Draft Simulator, I absolutely love to do it. Obviously, for months leading up.
Too.
But Ryan, we just had Logan Paulsen on, and we strictly looked at the offense from yesterday and predicting for Thursday. So for you, let's go down defense, what happened yesterday, and we're going to go through later on, probably in a couple minutes, talking about the Giants game on Thursday for this defense. So let me start it off. What went wrong? Why couldn't they pressure Herbert more? We had Fernando Ramirez on last week. He talked about Bulaga was kind of banged up, and his backup Storm Norton wasn't all that great. But we didn't see that really. That Chargers offensive line looked really good. What happened?
I think the biggest thing was obviously looking at Joe Lombardi and his scheme coming into this game. Obviously, they wanted to get the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands as quick as possible.
Yeah.
Right? They knew coming in that Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Allen Payne, the rotation of Ioannidis, they're going to be coming with their ears pinned back. And I think they knew that. But I think, honestly, it's really I want to look at Jamin Davis. And I think when people look at a middle linebacker position and what Jack Del Rio asks of his backers, it's so underappreciated. He's not a corner. He's not a safety or a wide receiver or running back to where you look at these rookies like Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith. They all have touchdowns yesterday. You're not going to see that immediate impact. Del Rio asked of his linebackers to do just so much. And we saw what happened to Bostic on that 3rd and 17 completion.
Right.
Not even to go there yet, right? But defensively, they picked on Benjamin St-Juste. You saw in that Mike Williams touchdown, they ran a 1-by-4 concept to put Mike Williams out alone on Benjamin St-Juste. That's just easy picking for Justin Herbert. He's proven he can sling the ball around. They got the ball quickly out of his hands. And it was just easy pickings all day long. I don't think we're at this, at the point yet. It's week 2. Everyone needs to relax a little bit. This defense will be absolutely fine. But at the end of the day, it was semi-ugly. I will say that William Jackson did an excellent job. I thought he looked great on tape after the game.
Yep.
I would like to see Cam Curl earn some more snaps. I wish I could talk to Del Rio as far as why Bobby McCain had more snaps than Cam Curl. But that's a whole nother issue. But defensively, obviously, the game plan was to get the ball out of Herbert's hands, let him pick, let him recognize pre-snap, get the ball out of his hands to Keenan Allen, and let him work.
Right, and you mentioned the linebacking core and Jamin Davis. It seemed like the middle of the field against the Chargers was just open on pretty much every single snap. Do you see this linebacking core kind of evolving, getting better, or do you think that's going to be things to come for the upcoming season?
I'll be the first one to say I'm one of the biggest Cole Holcomb fans there is out there. He was a top 10 pass cover grade in his last 2 years in football, right?
Right.
I think they have a long way to go. I think Jamin Davis is going to be a hell of a player for the middle of that defense. You look back over the years, and linebacker has been a decently strong point. Go back to London Fletcher, go back to the days of LeVar Arrington and Mike Barrow and Marcus Washington.
Right. Jeremiah Trotter.
That's going way back, right? But Washington has been decent, to say the least, at linebacker.
Yeah.
I think they have a long way to go. Especially in the pass game. But their speed to go sideline to sideline, fill gaps in the run. I think they'll really, once Allen, Payne, and Ioannidis kind of get their report back together. I know Ioannidis was out a lot last year. This is a get back game against the Giants. A get right game, should I say? In prime time. What better way than to get your first win at home in prime time against the Giants? And I'm excited for this linebacking core. I really am.
Right. Yeah. No, you kind of already touched on this a little bit, but so the Chargers definitely made sure that they got that they got the ball out of Justin Herbert's hands extremely fast. They like you said, they wanted to minimize this defensive line's impact. And it really reminded me of what the Giants did to us in both games last year. They made sure that Daniel Jones was throwing these quick passes, these screens, these quick slants, anything to kind of get the ball out of his hands fast and minimize the defensive line's impact. As a defensive coordinator, how can you kind of counter that? What can you do? Because it seems like if that's our kryptonite, that's all teams are going to do.
I think it comes down to really how we've drafted and how we've addressed free agency these last couple of years. Everyone is so big on the RAS scores. The Washington's drafting athletes.
Right.
Cosme's an athlete. Jamin Davis is a big-time athlete. Benjamin St-Juste. The names go on and on, right? Even Derek Forrest.
Mm-hmm.
These are big-time athletes. I would have liked to see, especially yesterday, get up near the line, put your hands on somebody's chest, get in their face, let them know you're there. I liked a little more bump and run. We're a little far off. I mean, that even goes back to the days of Joe Barry and Jim Haslett, sitting in zone and letting teams pick you apart. We have the athletes now. I would like to see them more, to counter those quick passes, get in their face and let them feel you at the line.
Right.
Yeah. And one player that came back, you alluded to him earlier, was Matt Ioannidis. How did you think he looked on film in his return? Did he look like the same old Matt Ioannidis, or is he still kind of getting back in the groove?
He's definitely getting back in the groove of things. I saw a couple times his hands look a little weak. He looked a little slow in the lower half. Just filling his gaps and getting around guys. That's not the Matt Ioannidis that we've seen and what we've proven to see. So over the years, we're like, oh man, Matt Ioannidis, he made Trump Payne for a starting spot. He made Trump Allen for a starting spot, right?
He's our best interior pass rusher.
100%.
We've always said,
100%. And I was even on the train of Tim Settle earning a lot of more snaps. That just might be me, but Matt Ioannidis has a long way to go.
Right. And getting into this game on Thursday, the Giants upgraded a lot of pieces on their offense in the offseason. They drafted Kadarius Toney. They added Kenny Galladay. Obviously, you still have a guy like Sterling Sharp coming out of the slot, and Saquon Barkley coming off the ACL injury. How do you see them attacking this defense, and who on this defense is going to need to kind of be that X factor if the defense is going to want to step up and contain this Giants offense?
I think Washington is obviously built on their foundation on the front seven, and that's where it starts, and that's where we'll start every single week. Every week, no matter what you see, if it's a pregame or if it's a preview of the game, you're seeing Chase Young on highlights, you're seeing Montez Sweat on highlights. It's going to start from the guys up front. I think they know that. If they're able to get in Daniel Jones's face, like Denver was able to do a tad yesterday in Von Miller's first game back, then they'll be able to set the tone for the whole defense. And the biggest guy I think that needs to step up is Chase Young. Obviously, expectations are up here, but that's what you get when you're a defensive rookie of the year and you're the number 2 overall selection, and you have the skill set that Chase Young does. It's on him to get the guys going. I think they'll be all over Daniel Jones. He looked absolutely terrible against Denver, if you ask me. They were all over them. Also, I would like to say that Ronald Darby, I wish Ronald Darby was still in Washington, but that's a whole other story. Yeah. But no, I'm excited for Thursday. I think it relies on Chase Young and Montez Sweat to get the defense going.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. I think it's that and Jack Del Rio's scheme, whatever. He's got to dial something up because as I mentioned, Daniel Jones, it seemed to destroy us last 2 years. And before that, Saquon Barkley would always destroy Washington. Both those guys are going to be playing on Thursday night. So what do you think that we can do to kind of slow down Saquon Barkley and kind of make sure that guy's not going to burn us and they kind of put the ball in Daniel Jones's hands?
Yeah, I think it's more, I think you just allow, make Daniel Jones beat you.
Right.
Right. I think it's on kind of it turns to baseball a little bit. If you're sitting fastball late, let somebody's off speed beat you.
Okay.
So, Saquon Barkley is that fastball, right? He can go right by you at any point if he's healthy. I'm not sure if he's there just yet.
Right.
But they have weapons. Obviously, they're bringing Galladay, Shepard, Slayton, Kadarius Toney, Evan Ingram's out, obviously. But I think you make Daniel Jones drop back in the pocket and beat you. He's a little bit more mobile than I think people give him credit for.
Oh, yeah.
So he can escape a little bit. But I think we have the athletes, like I spoke on earlier, to get him out in space. And if he does want to, escape and try to create off structure, to get out in space and get in his face, I think we'll be absolutely fine. I just think you allow Daniel Jones to try and beat you. And if he does, more credit to him.
One thing I will say is Daniel Jones kind of has that what's it called? Eli Manning dumb face just permanently stuck on him. So that's good.
Yes, he also has kind of that. It was almost like with Peyton Manning, Tony Romo, like they were more to Tony Romo. You just sometimes can't wrangle them down sometimes in the pocket.
Right. Yeah.
Always their balance and their just stability is, just to stay up in the pocket. Right. He doesn't have that as much as obviously guys like Romo, even thinking about like Big Ben, obviously, 250 plus pounds, which helps. Right. But, so.
Yeah, Ryan, looking over from the film yesterday, it was obvious what Brandon Staley and this offense went into the game plan with. And that was to go jumbo sets, to go tight sets, running off of zone. And then if they were in man, they would run pick plays off of it all day long. It was very easy to do. It honestly showcased Washington's weaknesses on the forefront in the first week of the season. So if the Giants, let's just say, take that blueprint and say, all right, this is what we're going to do. What can Washington do to counter that?
I would like to see William Jackson travel, if he could. I will also be the first one to say that Kendall Fuller has been underperforming these last year and into the
second half of last year and early this season.
Yeah, Hall and I were talking about that during the game. It seemed like they were picking on him early and often.
Yep.
He's got to play better. It's just flat out. He's got to play better, right? But moving forward to the Giants, they had athletes, Shepard, Slayton, Kadarius Toney. They worked Kadarius Toney a little bit on a jet sweep to get him involved in the game and went for like -5 yards, if I'm not correct. They're going to throw some different looks at the defense. I think, again, going back to bump and run, get in their face. We have the athletes, like I said. If they're going to run outside, they're going to put maybe 3-by-1 concepts with Galladay and Slayton and Shepard, and then move Toney on the other side. I think Benjamin St. Juice has a long way to go. I think if they can move him, maybe even move him back a little bit. I know Del Rio during training camp was talking about playing St. Juice at Buffalo nickel a little bit, but he just worked primarily opposite of William Jackson yesterday.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure if that's the game plan moving forward, right? He was terrible. He was terrible in week 1. I'm not going to be blunt about it, right? So there's a long way to go. And if they're able to line up Kenny Galladay or a guy like Sterling Shepard who can shake with anybody, it's going to be a long day again for that secondary.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. Like Kyle said, we were talking about it the game. It seemed like they were kind of picking on Kendall Fuller one play, and then the next play would be St. Juice. Then it would be back to Fuller, then St. Juice. So hopefully they can correct that, especially with another tall receiver like Kenny Galladay coming in. And again, looking forward to this game on Thursday. Do you see this as a make or break game for Washington, especially on the defensive side of the ball?
I think it's massive. I know it helps that 5 of the division games come at the back end of the season, which obviously helps because of just the gauntlet of quarterbacks that Washington will face upcoming. Any big name they're facing soon, right? But I believe this is a make or break. You just is such a big get right game, especially for the defensive side of the ball. You don't want to go in there and have Daniel Jones pick you apart for 330. Let Saquon run wild. Like Kenny Galladay had his breakout game. We've seen in the past guys always have career days against Washington somehow, and I don't know how it happens. It just seemingly always does, right? But it's just a massive game for everybody to get right, get on the right track. With Fitzpatrick out, it's Heineke's chance to get the keys to the offense and show everybody he can do. I've been on the Heineke hill for a long time. I'm not sure about you guys, but it's such a huge game. And like defensively, set the tone, right? That's what they're there for. That's what that front seven's there for. And I think they'll, harp on that in practice.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, you already mentioned Cam Curl was outsnapped by Bobby McCain. And another name that you didn't really hear much of that you've heard about all offseason was Landon Collins. You really didn't hear too much about him yesterday. And I don't think that's necessarily anything. It's not his fault. I mean, can't do anything if the ball play's not in front of him.
Right.
But what do you think Washington needs to do? Do you think that we're going to see more of Cam Curl and Landon Collins together? And do you think that has to happen in order for Washington to win?
I don't think it has to happen. I think we saw late they were running a couple 3 safety sets,
Right.
high. They would have Curl, they'd have McCain and Collins. I don't know if it's just kind of that veteran prowess in the backfield to, pair with Fuller and Jackson on the outside. But Cam Curl is he'll be a top safety if he continues his
exactly
play.
Right.
All the comparisons last year were, is Cam Curl or Jeremy Chin of Carolina better?
Right.
And I know that's kind of a weak conversation of saying, oh, who's better? It's more of who's productive and who's been producing week in and week out and in their schemes of what they're running, right? Cam Curl just flat out deserves more snaps.
Exactly.
Seriously, dude.
I don't understand
didn't
that process there from Del Rio. But Cam Curl is an outstanding playmaker. He can play low, he can play high, he can come in the box like Landon Collins, he can run with anybody. He's physical, he can make plays in the air. He's proven that last year. There's a lot of questions right now in the secondary that I hope figured out from following Thursday night.
Right.
Yeah, and then looking forward towards Thursday, I know you've kind of already harped on it, but defensively, how should the Washington football team attack Daniel Jones? What should be their game plan going in and to be able to force him into making those turnovers?
Play man on the outside and blitz the hell out of him.
There you go.
Force him into mistakes. I mean, I can't say it enough, right? You're going to have Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Let those boys eat. You just paid John Allen.
Yep.
Eat. Right? Get in his face. Force him into mistakes. You bring William Jackson in. He was pretty quiet for the first half of on Sunday's game, which was good. You don't usually want to hear your corner's name on the broadcast, which is fine. But get in his face, force him to make mistakes. It's such a crucial year for Daniel Jones and that offense with weapons aplenty everywhere, and obviously Dave Gettleman, whatever, that's the whole situation in New York. But let the front four eat. Blitz him as often as you can. Stop the sitting in zone 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10 crap. Get after the passer and let your athletes on the outside play man, let them run with him. If they beat you, if he can make throws over the top and beat you in the intermediate areas, let him. But blitz him and force him into mistakes.
Yeah, Deron Payne had a really good plays in that game. I don't think he's getting enough credit for his play.
Right. Especially against this Giants offensive line that there's a meme going around of 2 Giants offensive linemen blocking each other. That happened yesterday. So that's always fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're blocking each other and Chase Young comes around the corner and just destroys Daniel Jones.
Right.
But looking back to this past game on Sunday, if you had to give the defense a grade, like altogether, I know they gave up a lot of yards. They were horrible on 3rd down. I know a lot of people kind of harp on the score, even though I think LA left a lot of points on the field.
Yeah.
But if you had to give it a grade for the defense so far, what would that be?
I'd probably go like a C+. I don't think I can go in the B minus range. I think the
that's
greatest
fair.
thing, like you said, is the Chargers offense is capable of scoring with anybody, right?
Yeah.
35 points a game. We held them to 20, right? So that's a huge win. I think, Kyle, you spoke on earlier on Twitter. You were saying that bend but don't break. I think that's huge. It was obviously big when William Jackson had the pick.
Yeah.
And then Gibson fumbles on the ensuing play, which is just
Ryan, I
I
don't want to
know.
talk about it, Ryan.
just absolute backbreaker. Just cannot happen. And the fact that Gibson is going to have the workload Christian McCaffrey like in this Scott Turner offense, he's got to hold on to the football. I know he was in the air, whatever, but he's just got to hold on to the football.
Right. So, and one thing that really surprised me, I mean, coming into this game, I assumed that Washington's defensive line was just going to feast against this Chargers offensive line that was kind of patchwork together. It turns out the Chargers allowed the fewest amount of fewest percentage of pressures in the NFL yesterday. I mean, at only 12% of dropbacks he was pressured. They got to dial something. They have to do something. And so what do you think that they do with Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Ron Payne, Matt Ioannidis, Tim Settle? You think they're just going to have a solid rotation of these guys? Because I noticed sometimes on some pretty important plays, Chase Young was out on the sidelines.
Right.
Same thing when I
the early third down, I believe Jamie Smith Williams had the encroachment penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Chase Young not on the field?
Right.
I don't understand. Is he tired? You're tired that early in week one, then condition more in practice.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how I kind of viewed it, Ryan. I was asking the same exact question. And those money downs, especially that time, I know you want to have the rotation and everything, but when I look at this roster's top heavy. The drop off from the first string to second string is monumental.
Especially at defensive end.
So that rotation should not be so quick and so fast if the drop off is so drastic.
Right. I would like Del Rio to also move them around more. They're so static sometimes where they align. Allow John Allen to stand up on the outside. Allow Deron Payne to stand up on the outside. Move it around. Put Sweat and Young on the same side.
Do
allow
something
James
exotic.
Right. Just change it up a little bit. Give different looks. When you have guys, like you just said, patchwork offensive line. You got a rookie left tackle and an aging right tackle. Slater dominated Chase Young yesterday. Everybody came into the game. Oh, he's not going to dominate him like he did at Northwestern. This and that. He did.
Yeah.
He did. He took his lunch money yesterday. And that's just blatantly put it. But I would like to see Del Rio move them around more, not just line up in the same alignment every single play.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Now, to wrap this up, Ryan, I have two questions for you. The second question I'll ask for you after you answer the first. First one being, what is the Washington football team's X factor for a victory on Thursday night? And it doesn't have to be strictly defense. It could be offense or defense.
I think it's the play of Sam Cosmi and Charles Leno.
Okay.
They're going to need them to be stout for Heineke. I know he has that dual threat ability to create off structure, but they have to be much better than they were on Sunday. Cosmi was not good.
His footwork was bad again.
Very bad. And that's what you usually, obviously starts from the ground up with tackles. And Cosmi is an outstanding athlete. Usually his footwork, as far as what he's shown through camp, what he's shown preseason, but preseason isn't, he wasn't going against Joey Bosa in the preseason.
Right.
So I believe it's, the play of Cosmi and Leno, and then obviously tying into the Heineke as well, of course.
Yeah, that's a great one. I was not expecting you to go to that route. But then the last question I have for you, what is your prediction for the game and team MVP?
Ooh, game. Take my DMV bias away. I think Washington will win. I'll say 27-17 Washington. And the game MVP will be Antonio Gibson. I think he has everyone's expecting a huge year from him. Workload is going to be massive. I think he runs all over the Giants. I think he's able to catch a touchdown pass, something out of flat, or maybe he creates on a screen. But I think that team MVP will be Antonio Gibson. I'll say a 27-17 win.
Hey, they rode him yesterday.
Dude, they ran the ball. I was very impressed at how well they ran the ball yesterday. I'm not going to lie to you. They had great push up front. It was pass protection that they were just horrible in. Everyone just had bad plays. Ryan, thank you so much for coming on for us, sir. It has been so long, and you were worth the wait, my friend. Always bringing great analysis for us with the Draft Network. Make sure you tell Trevor I said what's up. I missed that guy. I'm going to get him back on here. If you want, real quick, just plug your handle, your Twitter, and where people can find your work and come follow you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm on Twitter at FowlerRyan1. And then all my work is under the draftnetwork.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ryan. You have a great night, sir. Best of luck on Thursday. Hopefully we get out healthy.
Yeah. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much.
Ryan. Have a good one, sir. All right, everybody. That was awesome.
Back-to-back experts.
Right.
Dude, who better than those two?
I've been waiting to get Ryan Fowler on.
I know. We've talked about it a million times. Now, and Logan, obviously, since he's met, we can have him on whenever. But
so before we get out of here, we know it's September, baby. Yesterday, Hall and I were at the Red Zone lot number 30, hanging out with the hog farmers for the tailgate. And we know September is Child Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month. So we are going to highlight two young souls that are whooping butt right now. So let's go with Reed. Who is your MVP of today?
Who is my MVP of today? Are you kidding me? My MVP, we got Noah. My man. Noah was diagnosed on January 20th, 2021, at the age of 6 with B-cell leukemia. Noah loves math. He loves addition, subtraction, and multiplication, all things that I was terrible at and I did not like. So Noah, good for you. Keep that up. Noah is also a kind and funny little boy. He loves spicy food, as do I, and uses hot sauce, as do I, on most of his meals. He enjoys doing food reviews as well for all of his fans. So make sure you check that out for Noah. And Noah, keep it up, and maybe we can get you some more hot sauce.
Yeah, seriously, dude. A hot sauce and spicy food. I'm with it all day long.
I keep hot sauce in my purse.
Hey, just want to let everyone know. I season my food. I season.
That was salt. It gets a little spicy.
I season.
Is it even like a question that I love hot sauce or not? So let's not even get into that. My MVP for today is Colum. He was actually at his first game this past Sunday, which we could have got a win for you and the rest of the kids. But he's currently in remission, so definitely cheers to that.
Yeah.
He's a 7-year-old boy that had an aggressive form of brain cancer called medulloblastoma. He had 30 rounds of chemo, or 30 brain surgeries, which is 6 weeks of radiation. 30 rounds of chemo, which is 6 weeks of radiation, and 4 months of chemotherapy back in 2019. I kind of butchered that. I apologize. But like I said, glad you're in remission. I hope you enjoyed the game and keep on fighting the good fight.
Yeah, dude. Keep balling the heck out. Really glad for the hog farmers for supplying us with these kids to be able to highlight. Give them some so everyone could see how awesome these kids are. We highlight pro players and what they do for their jobs. But these kids are fighting for their lives, man. And we got to show them some respect and give them the spotlight they deserve because, dude, they're fighters, and that's all I'm about, baby. Now, let's move on with our fan questions, and let's start out with Aki G, who asked this question on Thursday, and I'm sorry for it, but it actually can be used now. I'll start with you, Hall. He wants to know, if you could bring back any past Washington player from over the years to this current roster, who would it be and why?
Man, I feel like the obvious answer would always be Sean Taylor.
Right.
I mean, who wouldn't want to bring Sean Taylor, especially with this defense? It'd be just crazy. But we need some offensive help. So I'm going to go to the offensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go – we need a speed guy, but we also need a tough guy. I would go Pierre Garçon. I feel like he would be the perfect pairing with Terry McLaurin, especially to go Logan Thomas across the middle. Obviously, Pierre was a great blocker for us as well, especially with a guy like Gibson. That will bode well for him, breaking runs on the outside down the field even farther. So, I mean, Pierre Garçon, like I said, that was my dude back when he was here. So if I could bring someone back, it'd be my guy Pierre.
Yeah, I know this is probably going to piss everyone
off.
Oh,
man, I know where you're going.
I know this is going to piss everyone off. It's Trent Williams.
Oh, no, never mind. Okay, good. Yeah.
It's Trent Williams. I'm sorry, dude.
Probably be size.
Yeah,
dude, I would love Trent.
Yeah, look, man, that's my guy. I know that he left on bad note, but when he punched Richard Sherman in the face after that playoff game, I fell in love with Trent right at that moment. I was like, yep, he represents me because that's exactly what I would have done.
Hey, yeah. I mean, Trent Williams, obviously, he's somebody that you can never go wrong with. He's my all-time favorite Washington football teamer outside of Sean Taylor. And I wrote an article about him. I sent it in about 2 weeks ago. Still hasn't been posted yet, so we got to find out what's going on with that. Shoot. I am going to go with somebody that I know I'm going to get way more heat for this, Kyle, than you did for that. Kirk Cousins.
Oh, goodness.
I would love to bring Kirk. Kirk is better than anybody that we've had since Kirk has left. Let's be real. And Kirk is consistent. He's accurate with the football. I think with these playmakers around him, Kirk could have success. This offense would be close to 10th. It'd be middle of the road, a little bit higher in terms of passing yards and all that. And with this defense, I think we would win a lot of games.
Dude, there's a whole bunch of people whose heads just exploded.
I know it does, but guess what? They got to be realists and understand that we would win more games with Kirk Cousins. Unfortunately, now.
There was a lot of games back when Kirk was here that he would take us down the field, get us in position, we kick a field goal, get a touchdown to go up with like 2-3 minutes left in the game, and the Minuski defense or whatever defensive coordinator that was screwing it up at the time would let up the game-winning drive. So
exactly.
I would say if we had this defense with a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's like a little bit above average, a little bit more than a game manager type quarterback, I think we'd be doing good.
Yeah, and that's exactly my point with that is I think, look, obviously Kirk is not very clutch. We all know this. It is what it is. But with this defense, I think he could have some success.
Yeah, look, I get it. It's just now let's move on to our next question from Paul Murphy. Paul wants to know, what was most to blame for yesterday's defeat? Decision making and coaching side, or was it roster issues?
I'll go decision making only because I said this then and I say it again. I know we brought in William Jackson and he was more of a man guy, and I thought that was going to be the defensive scheme. From what I saw, everything what I was seeing, it was a lot of zone, a lot of like I said, a lot of zone defense. So yeah, I would go coaching because they didn't make the adjustment early enough to kind of switch the man and kind of send more blitzes, a little bit more pressure to kind of maybe get Herbert off the mark and get him a little bit more interior pressure in his face.
Yeah, I want to be careful when I say this. They played their butt off. They played against, I think, a unit that is going to be battling with some of the best teams in the league this year, and they're going to be giving them one heck of a battle. I loved watching that game yesterday. I know it ended with a loss, but they were fighting, man. They went back and forth. That was so much fun to watch. And we talked about it before we started recording. I know everyone wants to sit here and talk about how it's the same old Washington team. Dude, 5 years ago, this team would have laid on their back and they would have got destroyed 36-16 before they even did anything. This team, they were competing. They came back when Taylor Heineke was in this game. They didn't just lay down. They got better. Right. I really liked what I saw from this team. I saw the resiliency. They tried to win it. And it sucks because the William Jackson interception, you knew that you were like, yo, this is it. This is when we're going to charge it. They're going to charge on the field. Taylor's going to – and then AG fumbles that football. And it just takes all the wind out of you. And it's hard to say this, but it was great schematic scheme made by the Chargers. It really was. They had a perfect thing for this defense. They knew what we'd be doing. We didn't change anything in the offseason, and they came in with the element surprise. We had to adjust, and it took way too long to do that. They had the recipe for us, and that's what it comes down to. And then it comes down to AG just not holding on to the football.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I'm going to go with the coaching. And like just we all know, of course, Jack Del Rio, that he made some questionable decisions, especially when you talk about like how often Cam Crow was in the game. He didn't get enough snaps. Obviously, the whole zone thing and what happened with the corners. But another thing that and this is from at Surrender Index on Twitter. He put something out that said Washington decided to punt to the Los Angeles Chargers from the Chargers 45-yard line on 4th and 12 with 6:50 remaining in the fourth while losing and ended up losing 16-20. With a surrender index of 19.03, this punt ranks at the 98th percentile of cowardly punts of the season thus far, and in the 96th percentile of all punts since 1996 in terms of cowardly punts. I didn't get it, that punt situation either. I think you had to go for it there. But it is what it is. And we learned from our mistakes, and it's only week 1. So everybody's happy and Chicken Littles.
Look, I understand what everyone is saying about that. Most likely Ron should have gone for it, but I understand what Ron's saying. He didn't trust Dustin Hopkins at that point to kick the field goal, get the points. He also didn't trust the offense being able to get that 4th and 7 because you're giving them a short field back. So you might as well kick it long. Let's see if we can get it within their 10 and then get better field position if we force them to punt, and it's going to be easier to score points.
The only thing is you haven't been able to force them all day.
Defense did their job. They got him to the 3rd and 16, 3rd and long. And what happened? Keenan Allen picks up 17.
Yeah.
So technically, Ron did make the right decision. Defense came out, got him
and
out
Bostic made a horrible decision.
But did he, though? Did he actually make the right decision if it didn't work out?
Yeah,
I mean, you know what I'm saying, though.
I know what you mean.
I
completely. You're right. I mean, they the defense messed it up, and that was the story all day.
Yeah, but I agree. But I agree with you that without a doubt that yes, he should have gone for it. He definitely should have.
Call him Riverboat for a reason.
Before we get out of here, I just want to say everyone that wants to sit here and say that this wasn't a close game, that the Chargers whooped our ass. I just want to let you know that is complete bullcrap. That is loser talk. You are a defeatist. You're not giving them credit for making that a game. They played their butts off yesterday. They fought hard. That is a good team. They didn't lay down. Give them some respect. They lost 20-16, and they had the ball. They fumbled it, and that was the game on the 3-yard line. To sit here and act like them having 20, we should be lucky, you could kiss my ass, to be straight up with you. Because those points were not on the scoreboard. They could have easily scored them, but we didn't allow that to happen. If you want to talk about that fumble, that was a fumble. Justin Herbert went back. As soon as he went back, that ball came out. Yes, his hand went immediately forward, but if you've watched that before with other games, they will go back in the replay, show that ball went backwards, and before it goes forwards, it's coming out. And that's what happened with Justin Herbert, and that's why it wasn't overturned. All turnovers are reviewed, and they didn't overturn it because it was. So stop sitting here and saying they got lucky with only 20 points being scored against them. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know football. Stop disrespecting this team. Sorry.
Word.
Hell yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. EB pissed me the hell off with that. All right, everybody. I want to say thank you so much to Hog Farmers. Thank you to everyone who came out yesterday at the Red Zone lot. Great to see everyone. Thank you to Logan Paulsen and Ryan Fowler for stopping by. I really appreciate you guys getting this far and dealing with my voice. I'm sorry. Hopefully by Friday I'll have a better voice because, dude, yesterday I was screaming at the stands. I felt so bad. There was an elderly couple behind us, and they had to keep telling me to sit down. I was like, I'm so sorry. Just excited.
I think you sound better.
Oh, thanks, dude. All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
Hall.
Yeah. I am Lord. Yeah.
All right, everybody. We will see you guys on Friday. Do not miss it. Washington football. Woo! That was horrible.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next time, everybody, Washington football. Woo!